Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, of course. You good old boys in Canada, we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on a beautiful August the 12th, 2020. Ground of the Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, it's August 2020 and it's raining down here in the south.
Again?
It's humid as hell down here in the south.
Yeah.
We can't get comfortable. I don't care how we try to figure it out. But I want to say thank you to those frontline healthcare workers, the nurses, doctors, first responders, for this marvelous job that you do every day.
Every single day. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, just tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he will do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can also follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, Big C, I love doing the pause. I'll never pause on the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, when we think about our veterans and all that they've done for our country, and, you know, when we look at our administration, which has no answer for this pandemic that's going on with COVID-19, it has no answer for, you know, veteran suicide in America, Charlton. It has not addressed either one of those issues. I know we give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline numbers on each of our shows, Charlton, and we try to find in our ways to get help for those veterans who are suffering mentally, physically, and financially. We need more of America to do the same that we're doing, Charlton. You know, pay attention to these people. Just don't say thank you. Just say, can I help you in any kind of way?
Yeah.
That's really what a lot of people want to hear, because they don't want to ask. They want people to ask them, Charlton. And when you do that, you do a great service for our military veterans, who many of them are suffering from COVID-19 as the rest of America is, Charlton. Many of them find themselves homeless and destitute without ways of making that phone call. And if you see anybody struggling physically or mentally, Charlton, ask them, can you assist them? Maybe it's just a phone call they need to make.
Yep. Every little bit helps, Big C. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get people some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. The goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it, sports teams doing it, and you can watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com, and you can see some opportunities there too. Really looking forward to all the great things happening in the universe. Big C, you ever get angry? You ever feel mad? You ever feel like you're whining? You ever feel like you're just mad because when someone stands up to you, you don't like it? So they call you angry, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, over the past 4 months, I haven't been angry. I've been more depressed with COVID-19 and this lockdown that's going on. but I deal with the lockdown for everybody's health, not just mine, but everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, when you're sitting here and you shouldn't have a trouble in the world and you're angry and you want to say people are nasty and mean to you, Charlton, because that's what you're doing when you're looking in the mirror, and that's the only way you know how to attack people.
Yeah.
Because you can't deal with someone civilly. You will always use that angle.
Yeah, I heard that today. Number one, I know we love sports and we love everything, but like I said, we like gumbo. There's everything in the bowl. You just got to move that spoon around. I was talking to a woman today. I went to the post office to pick up a contract, and I asked this woman. So she's African American, and I said, "So how do you feel about Kamala Harris?" And she said, "Who's Kamala Harris?" And I felt really bad. But I said, "Well, she's going to be the next president or vice president of the United States if people get out and vote." I said, "She looks a lot like you, similar background, a lot like me." She said, "Oh, well, I haven't heard of her." I said, "Where are you from?" She said the town that she's from in Northern California. And I'm saying this, Big C, because my heart sank a little bit. And not that I'm putting everything on one person, but I really hope that we as a community of color, if we don't even know that the first woman in the history of this country since 1619 is a woman of color, then what are we really paying attention to, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you have to understand, Charlton, everyone does not pay attention to the news cycle every day. If you think about the last 4 months in America, the news cycle has been a repetitive story.
Yeah.
And some people just get tired and bombarded with it. It's like when we look at the news cycle, you look at the sports cycle, what has realistically changed in the last 4 months?
Yeah.
It's been the same attack in the news cycle, and the same sports cycle has been we want people to play. And people, sometimes just tune that out because they're really struggling and trying to deal with what's going on in their lives every day. We know that the presidential election is still some 83 days away, and people will become more aware and prescient during that time and pay more attention as it gets closer.
Yeah.
But this is a 4-year process when you look at electing somebody.
Yeah.
And just because you nominate somebody on one day does not mean that the battle is over. It means that the battle has just started.
Yeah.
You just got on the starting block is what has occurred. So don't sit there and say just because he's nominated a woman of color that all of a sudden this race is over.
Right.
You still got to get people to the ballot box.
Yeah, we got to get people to the ballot box. America, register to vote. Just text VOTE, VOTE. Text it to 26797. That's 26797. Text all your friends. Tell them Big C and the NFL said vote now. Let's make this the biggest vote in the United States in the history of the universe. So I really appreciate getting that out. Big C Sports, you ever been called sexy? You ever been called sexy, Big C? Does that make sense to you?
Well, I try to stay out of the mirror, Charlton, because it costs me, and I'm tired of being treated that way in my own bathroom.
Yeah. Hey, even if you get one vote is good enough. That mirror vote is a good friend sometimes. We want to be sexy. We want to be thrilling. We really want to be cool. We want to be thoughtful. We want to be clever. We want to be sleek. We want to be engaging. But most of all, we really want to be provocative. We want you to Google what we say so you'll know if we're credible. If you understand Real Sports Talk, if it feels good to you and you want some more, just Google it. Just like if you ever want more of anything, Big C, whether it's food, sometimes you just want more love, Big C. Sometimes you just want an extra sip of some Live Nation, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, to get a little extra chocolate. Big C stands for sexy chocolate also.
Yeah.
So, I don't mind getting a little extra chocolate.
Yeah. If you want something, you just got to ask for it. Before we touch on some sports, though, and I was just telling the young lady that I met today. She's probably in her late 20s, but I said just Google Kamala Harris and see if you can get your friends to best pay attention. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but just don't vote for the man that grabs you by the crotch. So today, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Big C, I think about things that my mother has told me over the years about class and about not acting a fool. When you go, don't embarrass me. I raised you better than that. And so I really thought about that. But the last couple of times just talking to people over the last, maybe the last year since COVID showed up, a lot of people feel uneasy. They feel a bit nervous. And oftentimes they feel like everybody's against each other. Well, that comes out of the White House. But today, I don't know if you saw it, but when I saw Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, it looks like they're just classy. I saw a lot of class. I saw no one talking about racism, no one bragging about sexual assault against women. You know, Donald Trump's filed bankruptcy, I think, 6 times. 6 times. He's also known as a predator. He has over 25 sexual assault allegations from women against him. And to see that going by us, to see that being in the rearview mirror if people get out and vote, that gives me hope, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, Donald Trump is what Donald Trump is. When you attack a person, you're running opponents on fear-mongering, not on policy. And that's what America needs to understand over the next 80-plus days, Charles, is that he will attack on fear-mongering, not on policy. Well, when you're going out saying that someone is mean and nasty, you send out a tweet telling suburban white women that they, you know, that if he's not elected president, that their neighborhoods will be turned into ghettos and low-income property.
Wow.
And that's fear-mongering and a dog whistle. He's not talking about anything about what he's going to do to stem the tide of this pandemic, COVID-19, that's been ravishing America, Charlton, since the beginning of the year, that there's no end in sight for it, and there's no medical plan that he has in place as far as getting kids back to school safely.
Yeah.
He's not talking anything policy, and that's what America needs to be aware of. You can sit there and throw verbal jabs at somebody all the time, taking someone off base. He's not talking about the kids that he still has locked up.
Isn't that true?
From the southern border last year, Charles.
Wow.
These kids have been in detention over a year. The kidnapping that the United States government has done.
Yeah.
So when he wants to talk about policy and how how damaging he's been to society and just morality of people all around the world, all he has to do is look in the mirror and put a tweet that says, this is about Donald Trump.
Isn't that something? If he had detained white kids and had them locked up away from their families for over a year.
They're not locked up and away from the family. They've been kidnapped, Charlton. They don't even know where the kids' parents are. There is no way to reunite these children that the United States kidnapped over a year ago down on the southern border. You can't reunite them with their families. So what's going to happen with these kids, Charlton, for the rest of their lives? And some of these kids were infants. They were still on the bottle and were not walking at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I know if white Americans had that happen to the white kids now, especially if you have grandchildren, young ones, the ones that are still on the bottle, and someone just took them. They just took them in a foreign country, and then you never knew where they were. Would you sit there and go to vote for that guy who ordered the taking of the kids? Would you really? Because you have that choice coming up in a couple of months, Big C. It's just amazing. Biden, when he talked about why he picked Kamala Harris, again, I think about my mother and my grandparents, Big C, because I saw strong black women sent all their kids to college or military or higher education, and I saw what she went through. And I know sometimes she never told us to walk around with your head down. That's part of my attitude now. And when you have some type of belief in what you're saying, sometimes even white people will say, well, you're kind of intimidating. You're kind of forceful when you speak. Maybe you shouldn't speak so loud. Or they'll say you're angry. Even black men have been called angry when you can enunciate your words and you don't mince words and you know what you're saying. And when I saw him attacking Kamala Harris, I felt like he was also attacking my mother. Because women have had to go through that, especially black women. And I don't know if that bothers you, but it surely bothers me, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when I think about the verbal attacks that Donald Trump utilizes, what that is a distraction from reality. He is going to continuously do this. He's done this against women ever since he's been in the political hunt, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's attacked women. He attacked women when he was running for the Republican nominee. He's been attacking women ever since he's been the president. He's called women mean and nasty, especially when they're women of color.
Yeah.
But he means that towards all women, Charlton. He's always denigrated women throughout his life. But you can't sit there and get angry at the things that Donald Trump says. You have to react in a positive way towards him. That's called voting him out of office.
Yeah.
And by him making you angry is another distraction that he's being successful with.
Yeah.
He wants people to be distracted from the real cause. As he constantly keeps talking about building a wall down on the southern border. He's only built 5 miles of wall down on the southern border since he's enacted his rule, his executive order, Charlton.
Yeah.
Those kids that were kidnapped over a year ago, people don't talk about them in the news anymore.
No.
He's constantly signing executive orders because all of the rules that he's trying to change, Congress won't agree with him, even though they're Republican, Charlton. Laws are made by Congress and the Senate, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to sit down and negotiate with them. So he signs executive orders because his base is thinking that these are laws. Executive orders, they're not the laws,
Right,
Charlton.
right.
He has to get it written through the Senate, and he can't do that. So just like the last ones he signed last week, it's another distraction. He wants people to talk about the things that he's doing because he's doing more devious things behind the scenes.
Yeah, I guess it's like telling someone you want to marry them so you can get them in the sack, but you don't go down to the courthouse and file any documents. But people know what it is. I do want to just contrast what Biden says about Kamala Harris, who reminds me so much of my mother, and not being afraid to speak her mind to men. I'm turned on by a woman like that, and I mean that in a respectful way, Big C. Because I admire people, because I grew up around strong people who were well-spoken. They didn't cow down to any man. And so I appreciate when I see that again. I'm even contrasting her to the first lady that we have for the next couple of months. This be best mentality, like where is she? You don't hear from her. Kamala Harris was not spread eagle in some magazine, but that's everybody's personal choice. But Biden did say that Kamala Harris is the right person for the role of vice president and maybe even future president. Kamala Harris, as you know, is smart. My mother's smart, but she's tough. My mother's tough. She's experienced. My mother has experience in raising a family and sending kids to college. She's a proven fighter and the backbone of this country. And I love when black women are seen that way as opposed to being angry and mean. And they really are angry if they speak up to you, Big C. Your thoughts?
But, you know, this is what white men have always thought, Charlton, that black women should not be intelligent, that they should not advance in life. This goes back 400 years of the white thought against black women in society.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to change, even with Kamala Harris being nominated for the vice presidency, Charlton. Those white men, those old white men who sit there and control the Senate of the United States, Charlton,
Yeah.
they will still think those same ways, just like a senator told Ocasio-Cortez that she was the B word a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
right there on the Capitol steps.
Yeah.
He felt he had the autonomy to be able to say that to a fellow politician, Charlton, a fellow House member,
Yeah.
that he could use that in denigrating her, and it would be acceptable. And no one admonished him on the Republican side.
Yeah, and they just went along, and I guess they swallowed the canary, Big C. And everybody does what they want to do, but I just contrast Joe Biden to Donald Trump. Donald Trump's filed for corporate bankruptcy 6 times. 6 times, and as white Americans voted for him anyway, would you believe the banks are still giving him loans? I told you, black farmers, they can't even get a loan.
The same people that voted for him do the same thing that he did, Charlton.
Yeah.
They filed for bankruptcy also. You got to understand, white people do what white people do.
Yeah.
They're all in the same thing. I mean, if you're in a crowd and these white people see you, just like they said, because you can articulate, they're going to call you an angry black man. Why can't you just sit there and go along with the program?
Yeah.
Instead of calling out somebody for what they do. The people who accept Donald Trump knew what they were getting when they accepted it. They took a guy off television, said he could run the country just like he did a television show.
Yeah.
They didn't care about his background.
No.
That wasn't what they voted him in
Yeah.
for. They voted Donald Trump in because he sounded like them.
Yeah.
When you sit around talking about him grabbing women by their private parts, these guys think and do the same type of thing Donald Trump does.
Yeah.
So as you're thinking about Donald Trump being a bad person, those people who voted for Donald Trump accept his lifestyle because that's the lifestyle that they lead.
Yeah, it seems that way, Big C. Now, I don't want you to be angry just because you're well-spoken. You sure you're not angry, Big C? You don't want to be angry. It's funny. I've been called, I sat in front of a white executive a couple of times, and she said, "You're kind of intimidating." I said, "Intimidating? I'm in a nice suit and tie. I'm smiling. I'm not having a painted-on smile the way they want you to have that painted-on smile that won't move." Sometimes I say, "You don't smile enough." You're like, "You're not smiling any more than I am." But when you know how to, you don't mince words. People say you're kind of intimidating, and maybe you should shut up. Donald Trump was asked a question about who his favorite athlete was. This is by a Fox News guy, and he gave him a softball. He said LeBron James or Michael Jordan. He said he likes Michael Jordan because he wasn't political. Your thoughts?
Well, because you don't want an intelligent, outspoken black person who can move the needle when it comes to political influence, Charles.
Yeah.
And that's what Donald Trump fears the most.
Yeah.
This is the reason why Donald Trump was fighting for college athletics to be played.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, where the red states exist, as far as Republican states, Charlton, that still have football that they have not canceled, Donald Trump is still their number one advocate for them going out to play football.
Yeah.
Because if football is being played, then it's a detractor from what he is doing. People won't pay as much attention to him as far as his undermined business.
Yeah.
But then he can go to his base and say, see, I got them to play football regardless of the health risk.
Yeah.
To send your kids back to school.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is a very great manipulator that he has been his entire life. And ever since he's been president, he has manipulated people to think about things that are not really, pertinent at the time.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, if you go back over the last 3.5 years of him being president, everything has been a 2-week news cycle with him.
Yeah.
Every 2 weeks there's a new story that comes up, and you forget about the past dozen stories that he's moved beyond.
Yeah. I thought as a black man, I don't know Michael Jordan. I'm not even trying to defend Michael Jordan, but when a white man tells you he likes you when you're dumb, or when he thinks you're dumb, what does that make you think he really thinks about you when you don't talk about anything other than dribbling, and that's supposed to be a compliment to a black man?
Well, Donald Trump is going to address an athlete or a former athlete, Charlton, who is not in the public spotlight right now, who does not have the public influence.
Yeah.
And that's what he would face right now if he was to address an athlete right now who really does not like him, who has spoken out against him publicly and his actions and his political stance publicly.
Yeah.
So you're not going to go out and address that issue. And it's like I talk about many times. If the Negroes were to perform their own leagues, Charlton, and separate from everybody else, here's Donald Trump, the president of the United States, could not even name one white athlete.
No.
So he had to go to a retired black athlete to talk about who's his favorite athlete. Michael Jordan is not an athlete, Charlton. He is a businessman. He is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He is like anybody else who is retired from the game. He is a public citizen. He is not an athlete. An athlete is a person who is active.
Yeah.
That's like me going out and saying, well, Carl Lewis is the greatest Olympic performer ever. No, Simone Biles is.
Yeah.
Carl Lewis is retired.
Yeah.
Simone Biles is still active.
Yeah.
Michael Phelps is retired. Everyone in the world knows who Michael Phelps is, but he is not the top swimmer in the world anymore because he's retired.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny because I realized that here, and I tell this to other black men too, in sports and politics, it's the same. It's just a gumbo. You got to dig your spoon around, and you got to grab whatever you want from it. But when people like you more when they think you're dumb, that's one of the biggest insults that I've ever. That's a euphemistic insult. I like him because he doesn't say anything that threatens me. I mean, that's just. Oh my God!
You got to understand, when you look at Donald Trump's stance, he came out yesterday in an interview on Fox.
Yeah.
Talking about that the NBA players are desecrating the flag and the military by kneeling for the national anthem.
And he ran
Not
from it.
understanding what the stance is all about. He's desecrating black society in America, Charlton.
Yeah.
Every time he opens his mouth, he's denigrating black society.
Yeah.
And he's saying that the NBA ratings are down and paltry because the players are kneeling. No, that's not the reason why the ratings are down. Is that they're waiting on the playoffs to start. It's like this all year. And the NBA ratings are much higher than his ratings if he really wants to talk about that. But people pay more attention. There's nobody that would sit down and watch him for 2 hours on television thinking that he was entertaining, where they will sit down and watch the NBA game for 2 hours.
Yeah, they'll sit down and watch an NBA game, but not him for more than like 10 minutes. So before we get on to a few things in sports, I want to bring up some stuff about Jerry Jones, your friend. But I want to just pat you in the back a little bit because you said some things that would happen. It's amazing when black men are prescient and you can say to the whole universe what you believe and we cannot redact it. If we're wrong, we look like buffoons. But you were saying that the Trump campaign is going to use white code words, what they used to call black code words. You're going to hear him trying to create bigotry. You're going to hear the anti-guns. You're going to hear about increasing your taxes. You're going to hear we're soft on crime. We're anti-police, like Governor Wallace. They're going to say that we're anti-everything that's good, Big C. But when he really took the cake when he said to white women, the ones he said he's going to grab you and your kids by the vagina and he'll get away with it. He says that if Biden and Harris are elected, you're going to have black people moving into your neighborhood. And in real estate, that's called blockbusting and redlining, which is illegal. But does that really work on white people, telling them, if you vote for this person of color, you know they might move in next to you? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, this is the dog whistle that's always been told in society, Charlton. You can live wherever you can afford to live in society. And no neighborhood is white, no neighborhood is black.
Right.
It's based on economic value, Charlton, and economic ability to be able to afford that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Regardless of who you are as a culture. But to sit there and tell people that your neighborhood is going to become a Section 8 neighborhood if you elect somebody else, Charlton, that doesn't happen like that. Society does not move like that. Banks are not going to give loans to people who cannot afford a loan, who does not have the income to substantiate a loan of that magnitude.
Yeah.
So for him to go out and lie, this is what I mean by, if you're stupid enough to want to believe the things that he said, and you want to look at the deflections that he's constantly utilized.
Yeah.
Before it was that, you know, the brown people from across the border were going to come in and take all your jobs.
Yeah.
They were going to rape and murder everybody in your neighborhood. Now is if you elect somebody else other than me, you're going to get all these minorities moving into your neighborhood. They're going to take your house. They're going to steal your house.
They're going to steal it.
They're going to come home and they're just going to be sitting in the living room one day with the locks changed on the door, talking about what the hell you doing here. That's basically what he's saying to people.
Yeah.
But if you're stupid enough to listen to this individual, or pay attention to even the buffoonish things that he says on a daily basis, then it puts you in his category.
Yeah, I guess like when white Americans discovered the United States, they would call it breaking in, if that makes sense to you, Big C. It's all fair and love and war. And I'm sure he won't tell those white suburban women that he's going to spray, you know, tear gas and rubber bullets with the military on white children when they want to go to the Washington, D.C. area.
Charlton, he already did a photo op with a Bible. Didn't he tell those suburban white women that, hey, I'm tear gassing your kids?
He sure did.
You know, and I'm going to rubber bullet them just so I can do a photo op across the from the White House. Didn't I do the same thing in Portland? Didn't I do the same thing in Seattle?
Yep.
Haven't I done the same thing across America? Donald Trump is telling you all the things that he's been doing to white suburban women's children, Charlton.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to say that the Democrats are going to be worse than what I am.
It's funny how some people can just lie to you, and they'll tell you that somebody else is going to do to you what they're doing to you right now. NFL football, Big C, one of your friends, who's also a Trump supporter, Dallas Cowboys owner, I guess he's coming out of some cave that he was hidden in. Maybe he got kidnapped by the same people that took those Mexican kids coming up from Mexico, Big C, and they realized he passed the paperback test and let him out. But he says that when it comes to the national anthem, that Jerry Jones says that he's going to show some grace. He doesn't really know what the players are going to do, but I'm going to tell you right now, he may show grace if he wants to. He still believes that players should stand for the national anthem, but the owner and general manager did not say if a policy will be in effect in 2020. I'm going to tell you young black kids something, especially you young rich black men. If Jerry Jones doesn't want to support you, just go on strike and form your own Negro football league. Don't let some white man put his foot in your neck because you want to stand for liberty and justice for all. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, as little as Jerry Jones knows, you're protected by the Players Association in the NFL. Your contract has a certain value. He's also limited by his salary cap. So for all of his threats talking about he's going to release players and sign players, Charlton, it's not going to happen. You know, when you have a cap and you're up against the cap, especially this upcoming season, if it's played, that they're going to be cap strapped for cash.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be as easy to just go out and release players and sign players. It's not that simple. And especially your starters. You're just going to tell me you're going to cut 5 of your starters?
Right.
If all the offensive defensive line takes the lead 4 games, you're going to get rid of them that week. It's not going to happen.
No.
That BS that Jerry is spewing right now, it's not true. Where in the hell has Jerry been for the past several months? This is a guy that can find a microphone in a snowstorm, okay? and give a press conference. But we haven't heard nothing from Jerry. He's been quiet as a mouse pissing on cotton shirt. And here's Jerry. All of a sudden, he wants to send it out in a press release.
In a press release.
He still will not get in front of a microphone.
But
Jerry Jones, who is the biggest mouth and the richest guy in the NFL, is still scared to go out and talk.
Maybe he's not scared of COVID because he's a Trump supporter, so he doesn't believe COVID exists. so he doesn't wear a mask. I saw him wear a mask one time, Big C, but he believes in one of the dumbest guys that's ever been in the Oval Office. So I don't know if he's going to stand with the players who make him money or if he's going to stand with a guy who's caused a lot of death by telling people that it's not a real virus. We're going to take what's called the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. And when we come back, we're going to ask, where has Jerry Jones been, Big C? We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps that you can use when you follow Big C Sports, and I really do appreciate the things that we're doing with Big C Sports. I've already said we want to be sexy, we want to be thrilling, we want to be thoughtful, we want to be clever, Big C, we want to be engaging, but most of all, we want to be accurate. If you're ever doing something in life, if it feels good and you want some more, just Google Big C Sports Podcast. I really appreciate that. I want to jump to another team in the NFL, since we know that Jerry Jones is he's hibernating someplace, Big C. But when you think about strong men, I think about the Los Angeles Chargers. And I just found out today, like a lot of people have, that their head coach, who is a really classy man, Anthony Lynn, that he had also tested positive for COVID-19. It did not take long. There's a show called Hard Knocks with the LA teams, and it revealed that he had dealt with COVID-19 during the offseason. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, many Americans are going down that flight. COVID-19 is like a handshake now in America. Everyone is going to, I would say 50% of America eventually, Charlton, will have some remnants of this disease. So, having a coach or a player speak up that they've tested positive, it's what the long-term effects is. I mean, we have, over 5 million people in America, unfortunately, that have tested positive, and we probably have another 25 million that's going to test positive, Charlton, in the next couple of years if they get around to it. Probably even less than 1 year.
Yeah.
But the death rate is what you have to be concerned about with the COVID-19, not the positivity test rate, but the death rate, which is close to 165,000 Americans who have unfortunately lost their life behind this horrific disease, Charlton, that there's no end in sight for. And we have an administration that pays no attention to it or has no solution or remedies in the works.
Yeah, it's amazing how he called, and I still can't get over the fact that POTUS is easily calls a woman of color angry and nasty because the woman stands up to him, unlike his wife. The first lady doesn't stand up to POTUS. We all know that she won't even be seen with him in public, Big C. But I still appreciate black women. You've always been the vanguard of this country. You just don't get credit for it. I want to just ask your thoughts because I know college football, except for a few people, like Scott Frost for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, Big C. But, I think about Jim Harbaugh also as a coach of the Michigan Wolverines. We know the Big Ten, they decided to put their season on pause. And here he is saying that he said he's heartbroken. I don't know why they paid him so much. I think he's getting $7 million or $10 million, something like that. And that he wants football. And would you believe that Jim Harbaugh, who played at Michigan, he said that he is willing to take the risk with health, Big C. He's not playing in the game, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what I would like for all these coaches who keep standing up saying that they want the sports to be played, bring their wives and their children and their grandchildren, Charlton, out to practice every day without a mask. Let them hang around these players. Let them hug up on them. Let them give them high fives and all of that. Since you think it's so safe to put these black athletes out there on the field, bring your family into play. Bring your parents.
Yeah.
Bring your spouse. Bring your kids. Bring your grandkids out to practice every day. Let them be the water boys and water girls running around giving the drinks to the athletes when they're out on the field. Expose them to the elements that you're talking about, exposing these black athletes to, Charlton, out on the field so that you can get a financial gain. If you feel it's safe for the athletes, then bring your damn family out there and let's see how safe it is. And don't put a face guard on them.
And don't put a face guard on them. And I was thinking about that as I was talking to a former football coach this morning, and how, sometimes people go through their own health. So he's sheltered in place. He's not, and he's a white dude, and he thinks POTUS is dumb. And he thinks that people that are listening to that are dumb because he's had some people that he's lost to COVID-19 as an older white gentleman, Big C. He's not willing to take a chance. But if guys like, Jimbo Fisher and Jim Harbaugh and all those other good old boys that want to get out there and have their players play, they really could get their coaching staff, Scott Frost, you guys, that your friend down at Nick Saban, they could get the coaching staff together. And why not just have Alabama coaching staff versus Michigan coaching staff? I'm sure they could do it, and they could even raise the money for COVID-19 relief. And I'm not even being flippant, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, no, but I'm serious about them bringing out their family members. Forget about the coaching staff. Bring all of the coaching staff's family members out there. There are enough positions that you need filled that you normally would use students in the program, Charlton, to be there as assistants in capacities on the sideline as far as passing out water, cleaning face masks on helmets, various things, ball boys and all that. Bring your family members out there. You got enough extended family members to bring out there and don't give them any type of face cover. Let them stand around and practice, because in practice, when you got all these positional drills, you need a couple people in each one of them carrying the water buckets, Charlton, as well as the towels and extra little pieces of equipment that players will need, tape and things like that.
Yep.
Bring all your family member in. If you want to practice, bring all them in. That's what I want to see. I want to see how concerned you are about the health and welfare of your own family. When you talk about these kids, you're going to treat them like their family.
Right.
Bring the rest of your extended family out to practice.
Big C, you sure you're not angry for telling white men the truth? I don't want Trump to call you angry. Are you smiling and grinning so you won't be called angry? Would you understand about Jim Harbaugh? He's due to make $7,500,000. That's $7,500,000 in total annual compensation if the Wolverines play football. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they're not going to play football, Charlton. As much as people want to fight around the country saying, we're still going to keep our conference games in play.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why I keep advocating for a commissioner of college sports in every sport that there is. You need a big dog in the room to make the decision, because everybody is punking up right now for the dollars. I understand everybody wants to earn a living. But we got Americans right now, Charlton, just got cut off on their unemployment where they were getting a paltry $600 a week. And Mitch McConnell said that's too much money for Americans to be getting every week when they're unemployed, $600. It only equates out to $15 an hour, and they say they have with the federal minimum wage being at $7.25 an hour. That's enough income for people to make and be able to support a family on, Charlton. They don't need more than that. So as we look at these college coaches and they're fighting and trying to get back to playing the games, like I said, I'm very serious about them bringing the whole damn family out there, from their parents on down to that grandkid who's still walking around with a beak stuck in his mouth. Let them walk around those players while they're hot and sweaty out there and dripping sweat all over each other and breathing and coughing and sneezing on each other. Put your kids and grandkids in that situation without a face mask, just like you're not going to give the kids a face guard to cover their face, the players, and see how affected your family will become from that.
Yeah, and make sure you tell those black boys that you spend a lot of time recruiting Jim Harbaugh that you don't believe in science, but you believe in getting that $7,500,000. That's a lot of money to put people in danger. But I want to ask you a question, because I remember the Nebraska program back over the days of Osborne, Tom Osborne, old gambling Tom. He ran that wishbone, that play option that he had, the Rozier and a lot of them good old boys that played for him back in the day. Now, Frost played at Nebraska also, and they left the Big 8 conference with, I think they had Oklahoma and Texas and Colorado. So they got mad because they felt the conference cheated them in a game against Texas and allowed Texas to win the championship. And so they went to the Big 10. Now, and I know this probably can't happen, but I'm going to ask you anyway. They have contracts. But he's saying that they're willing, since the Big Ten is smart and they're starting to look at science, or they're leaning toward looking at science, Big C, if they can't play in the Big Ten, that they're willing to play some schools from the SEC or the Big 12 if they'll let them in. For what, Big C, your thoughts?
You have to understand you're contractually obligated to the Big Ten, Charlton, and the Big Ten has canceled its season. You just cannot go out and be a rogue member of the conference, Charlton, saying that we're going to go out and play games independently from the conference, and we're a part of the conference body.
Yeah.
So all this talk from coaches and all that stuff is like your president, Donald Trump. He's just blowing hot air and trying to throw a distraction. They're trying to let boosters and people at the big donors think that, well, I'm upset that the season's been canceled. these players would have been okay. That's what they're trying to say so that they can still have revenue coming in, Charlton.
Yeah.
But all these conferences are going to cancel, and I feel that they'll all cancel by tomorrow. I know by the end of the week all of college football will be over because it means nothing.
Yeah.
You can't go out there and just say, okay, we're going to broadcast these games. You got to also look at from the television perspective of this. What are people going to think about these television companies
Yeah, yep.
in this money grab situation to put these young people out there in harm's way? And I guarantee you, if they do try to play college football season, Charlton,
Yeah.
on any level, is that you're going to end up with somebody at the hospital, if not more, at least a dozen players on respirators. It's just going to happen. It's just medical science that says that right now. And I know we've spent a lot of time talking about these colleges, Charlton.
Yeah.
What about the damn high schools? Think about the high schools in these states where they canceled college football.
Yeah.
What are high schools going to do in California, in Ohio? You know, in these huge states, Charlton, that high school football is just big. Pennsylvania. So when you think about where they canceled college football, what are the high schools going to do in those states? And they have nowhere near the financial wherewithal of these colleges. They couldn't test the kid more than once in a season based on their budget.
Yeah, that's very true. I know in California, it's called the CIF, California Interscholastic Federation. They've put all the football on pause, and they're saying if they're going to play football, they're going to do it in the spring of 2021 if things get better. They're saying if. They're going to even capitulate to science. Before they were saying, no, we want to play. We want to play. No, they were going to put those young kids out there and have them get exposed to it as they've been happening in a lot of the southern states. So California's put it on the pause. But I do believe, and I may be wrong, last time I checked this, there were still 37 states. This is as of last month in July. I haven't checked it lately. But 37 states that were saying they're still going to go forward. But we know since then, a lot of these programs in these states have canceled high school football, and that's a good thing, and I really appreciate that. But I want to go against you a little bit here. I agree with you, but I'm just telling you my own thoughts. When you look at the Big 12 Conference, that's primarily the schools down in Texas, in Oklahoma, and they're saying that they said it today, that their plans is to kick off the fall football season, and they don't care what science is saying. Because as they say, you know, Van Gundy, we, like the old white guys and their families want to play football, even though they got recruit black kids to make them $7,500,000 a year. You think the Big 12 is going to listen to you or science? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what has happened, they keep moving the season back. I think they're talking about September 26th kicking off the season. And at that time, it gives them leeway to say, okay, that now that this pandemic has picked up even more, we've become more salient to it, and so we're going to cancel the season until the spring.
Yeah.
What they're doing, they just haven't canceled the seasons, Charlton. They moved them back. When you think about the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12, all of them are talking about a late September kickoff. Normally, we're talking about college football kicking off in about 10 days in America, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's been the normal modus operandi for the past couple of years.
Yep.
But right now, they moved it back to September 26th as far as the kickoff. And if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about all of the colleges had different startup weeks. All of the conferences did.
Yeah.
They were not unilateral on a startup week. And this is the need for a commissioner in college football and college sports in general. Because all of these guys, and you got to understand, the coaches are not making the decision.
Right.
The coaches are the ones that you keep hearing in these media tweets and press conferences talking about, we want to play, we're going to play. You have to understand, college football comes down to the president and the board of regents, not the head coach, because head coach works for them, regardless of how much money they make.
Yeah.
But the president and the board of regents are the ones that all the pressure comes down on, Charlton, not the head coach of a college, because he's overseeing that entire university. So if you got online learning at that university, you can damn well bet there's not going to be any football.
Well, we're down in Texas. I don't know if you understand the politics in Texas, because they have 30-year-old high school football players. The Big 12 Board of Directors chairman and TCU chancellor, his name is Victor Bocciolini, Victor Bocciolini. He's a Texas. He's a good old boy. He says, we remain vigilant in monitoring the trends and effects of COVID-19. We know 165 1,000 people have lost their lives. They're not talking about those trends. Okay, that'd be too realistic. Remember the CDC, it told hospitals don't report, the White House told the CDC, don't report to hospitals anymore. Report to us. And he told the hospitals don't report to the CDC, report to the White House, and we will release those numbers on COVID-19. He says we remain vigilant.
And if you look, the numbers have gone down over the last 2 weeks
Exactly.
as far as positive tests from COVID-19. Ever since the White House has taken over the reporting numbers of COVID-19 around America from the hospitals, they've been taking the numbers. The numbers of of COVID-19 positive cases have gone down.
Yeah.
But the death rate, Charlton, is still averaging over
Exactly.
1,000 a day.
Exactly.
So you can tell everybody that the positive test rate is going down, but you can't cover up the death rate that is continuing to rise.
Yeah, because that's reported by the states, not by the hospitals, Big C. But he did say we remain vigilant in monitoring the trends and the effects of COVID-19 as we learn more about the virus. Okay, 165,000 people in 6 months have passed away. If at any point, this is what scares me about young kids that don't read, if at any point that our scientists, not the CDC, but our scientists, the hand-picked scientists, Big C, that our scientists and our doctors conclude that our institutions cannot provide a safe and appropriate environment for our participants. I thought they were student athletes. But now the participants, Big C. Your thoughts, Big C?
If you look at it, Charlton, they know that they cannot provide a safe environment. If they knew that they could provide a safe environment, college football would have kicked off in the last week of August, okay?
Yeah.
That's knowing that you can provide a safe environment. They're telling you, we do not have a safe environment. We're still monitoring, hoping that the rate goes down enough that we can provide a safe environment. All you got to do is listen to what he's telling you. He's telling you he cannot provide a safe environment. Otherwise, college football would have kicked off in its normalcy. It's not there.
Yeah.
So they don't have a safe environment. They can keep saying, they can keep moving the needle down the road.
Yeah.
How far do you got to go before you fall over the cliff? They set a deadline in September 26th of being able to provide a safe environment. That's what they said.
Yeah.
They set a deadline for 5 weeks from today, from this week, from having a safe environment.
Yeah.
If they can't get it within that 5 weeks, then they're going to cancel.
Yeah. Big C, I want to make sure now. I know sometimes when you go against POTUS, he's going to say you're angry and that you're being nasty because you always want to talk about science. Why can't you just get along with these good old white guys and help them put more money in the bank? So I'm still saying, and I hope I'm wrong, if there's any state that will go forward and run through that, they run off that cliff, even though it says stop, cliff, stop. Like the sign says stop, and people say, well, stop for what? But I hope I'm wrong. But if any state goes forward, it's going to be Texas, Big C. I want to go up to the Buckeye State. Buckeye is a nut, Big C, okay? And when you think about it, you look at the coach, Ryan Day. He wants spring college football to start in early January. So that's the Big Ten, and that's the same conference where Michigan has Coach Jim Harbaugh. So Coach Day is saying, yeah, we're going to focus on science. And then Harbaugh is saying that our boys want to play. In fact, we've tested 365 people, and we haven't had a positive test. Number one, who's doing the test and who's reporting the test, but people keep passing away every day. So how could they be so different than the rest of society, Big C? Your thoughts?
But what is a head coach, Charlton, in college football? He's a spokesperson.
Yeah.
He's a mouthpiece for the university. He's not the authoritarian of the university. Like I said, the president of the universities are the guys in charge. The athletic director is second behind him.
Yeah.
He got together with all the athletic directors and presidents of the universities, Charlton, and the Big Ten canceled their football season.
Yeah.
You have to understand, in January, what is that? That's cold and flu season.
Yeah.
Influenza, all of those things that are going to go along with COVID-19, Charlton, there's going to be a riding on the back of COVID-19. So if you think COVID-19 is bad, your President Trump says as soon as it gets warm, it's just going to go away. It's going to disappear magically. It's happened to have increased.
Yeah.
And so as all the people that are struggling from it now, Charlton, those people you talked about that did not die, that survived, they're going to be subject to catching influenza, the flu, and all of those things, pneumonia, Charlton, because of their organs and lung capacity is going to be damaged when it comes to that time of the year.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the death rate in America being what it is now, wait until it gets cold. And Big Ten country is real cold in January.
Yeah.
And you're talking about putting people out there during that time of the year, Charlton, that they're going to be even more vulnerable physically. You got to be realistic. It's not about sports now. I mean, sports is a secondary entity in America.
Yeah.
Is everybody wants you to watch sports, to pay attention to sports, so you can take your mind off of how you're being screwed politically in this country.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. They say if something feels good and you want some more, just ask for it again. But I know, and I'm proud of our platform. Not everybody has to be proud of anything. If you're willing to stand up and give a final exam to a class of college or high school kids, that's one thing. But when those kids, those students, like we're students of the universe. If those students are willing to stand up in front of the whole world and give their answers in front of the whole world, and then the things that we've talked about, we started seeing happening in the world. We talked about we need some social justice reform. We need that. We've been talking about that for about 4 or 5 years now. Those things are changing. I told you even about a couple of months ago, I want to see more black women involved in the political process, because oftentimes they are, but they're kept behind the scene. And now Joe Biden followed Big C Sports. He selected Kamala Harris to be the first black woman vice president of the United States of America, so I appreciate that. We've also been saying something I want to throw it to you on. Quit playing for free, and you're making white guys rich. The NCAA football, they talk about the big loss. A lot of people say, man, it hurts. It hurts real bad, man, when these white coaches and these conference owners, their bank accounts cannot be filled up running over the top. But the only thing that's changed for the players is that the players get zero money. So nothing's changed for them other than they're going to stay out of harm's way. But what's really hurting these white oligarchies is that they can't make the $7.5 million that they were expecting to get with these boys playing for free. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at the financial impact on the conferences, that's what everybody's at, is the money. But we've had 2 conferences where the players put down the foot and drew a line in the sand and said, we want 20% of the revenue in this conference.
Yeah.
We want 50% of the revenue in this conference. Because without us, you're not getting a damn thing.
Yeah.
And I realistically think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, Charlton, on these conferences.
So do I.
Pulling the plug on the season because the players were demanding money. And they were standing fast with that. It's like, no, we're not going to pay unless we're being paid. And the university could not figure out how to divvy up some of that money to the players. So they just could not work that out.
Yep.
So they would rather cancel the season because that's what it was going to come down to, that at any point they could have started a game and the players walked off the field and said, no, we're not playing until we get a contract signed, that we're getting paid.
Yeah.
That's not often that the person in power wants a gun held to their head on a demand and saying, you have no choice but to do this for us.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that was the reason why the MAC conference first, and then the Pac-12, then the Big Ten joined in. But I know the MAC demanded 20%, the Pac-12 demanded 50%, and they had a players' coalition that got together with the conference commissioners, Charlton, and made these demands. So they had a lawyer put the contract together on their demands. They didn't walk in there and just say, hey, on a piece of scratch paper or a napkin, this is what we want. No, they had a contract drawn up. And the university saw that they were for real.
Yeah.
And these players are at a point now, and the Supreme Court has backed them up last week, saying, no, you have to pay them. And so these conferences are struggling more with trying to figure out how to pay the players than they are about how to play the game.
Yeah. I mean, and these old white guys, they can go out and get a job as a security guard. That's what they have the average black athlete do when they leave the school. They won't give them a job in the coaching ranks, but they'll hire them to work security, and they know it's true, Big C. They'll give white guys a management job for some company, but they'll make the black guys work security. You don't believe me? Go to some stadiums and see the guys. Hey, man, I remember when you used to play. Hey, man, good thinking about you again. Hey, have a good day. Michigan, the big house is going to be empty. Southern Cal, they can't have that white horse running around South Central Los Angeles this year, Big C.
Well, if you can't run around, Charlton, you're going to have a barbecue. That horse is not making any money.
Hey.
You know, you'll be just like, you'll end up taking that skin and making some nice food.
I hear it tastes like chicken, Big C. It's all fair and love. But no one at the Ole Miss for sure will be partying fans, belting out lubricated hottie-toddy, Big C, in the Grove. And then you think about all the great bands and the cookouts that happen over college football weekend. I remember going down to the farm down at Stanford University, and they have the tailgating out there among the pine trees. It's just a nice place, but I'm so happy they had a gentleman from Stanford University last night. He was on CNN talking to Don Lemon how they would like to play, but the Stanford-educated man says, we're going to listen to science. We're not going to listen to our boosters saying, I want to see you boys get out there and run around, Big C. So I'm really happy for that. And before we close out, I want to just say, Big C, welcome to the show. Major League Baseball saying welcome to the show. If you see their banner, I'll send you the banner of Major League Baseball. It says welcome to the show. And I'm not joking about it. J.D. Martinez, Mike Trout. They have my good old boy Aaron Judge from the New York Yankees, and he has a hitch in his giddy up. Justin Verlander, you have Molina, Christian Yelich. They're all walking across the line that says welcome to the show. And only Big C Sports does welcome to the show, but Major League Baseball is trying to steal our style, but it's all fair and level where Big C. If you think about it, though, they do have Aaron Judge. He's out of the lineup today, Big C, because of tightness in his lower body. And sometimes people say when they start reading more about COVID-19, a lot of things get tight all of a sudden. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, baseball is in a struggle right now, Charlton. They're going to have to figure out a way to try to keep players healthy. Once the playoffs start, are they going to create a bubble in a couple cities to keep players just in those places versus flying all around the country, Charlton? Because the safety and welfare of these athletes need to be in the forefront, regardless of how much money you're making or losing.
Yeah, they're saying he's getting treatment now. He wants to play. He said he's just dealing with some lower body tightness at this time. You ever have lower body tightness when you don't want to go off to work, BC?
Well, Charlton, I have that every morning when I wake up. You find that out when you get of maturity age that the body just doesn't function the way it used to.
Yeah, some people are upset when they don't find tightness. They think, what's wrong? I'm not stiff and tight. I want to make sure people vote. I want all of America, please get out there and register to vote. Register your family. Text VOTE, V-O-T-E, to 26797. That's 26797. Tell them Big C and the NFL. In fact, Major League Baseball, also the NBA, says get out there and vote. Let's make this the biggest vote in the universe. We just got to do it. Talking about it won't do anything. You got to get out and do it. Final story, Big C. Maybe not the final story, but final sports story. And I want to close out congratulating Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and telling all black women, don't be so mean. That when a white man says don't be so mean, it means shut up. Don't question what I tell you, woman. I mean, life's crazy. That's not me saying it. That's what Donald Trump is saying. He said you're mean. And some of you even voted for him. Isn't that something? NBA basketball in the bubble. The Western Conference is tight, Big C. There's a lot of teams jockeying. And a guy by the name of Damian Lillard, he does a lot of rapping on his part-time, Big C. But I think he dropped 61 points. He also had 8 assists. He's playing like he's the MVP, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the thing about having this bubble late in the season, Charlton, is that the younger leagues will prevail.
Yeah.
The faster teams will prevail. I mean, what you did during the regular season, the normal regular season, versus coming back to this time of the year, Charlton, where you can play all out for 30 games, and that's what the younger leagues are doing, Charlton. When you look at the teams with these dominant backcourts, they've been dominating within the bubble. You look at what Phoenix has done. You look at what Portland has done in Houston, Charlton.
Yeah.
These teams have been outstanding. Even Toronto. Their backcourt has shined, and they've been hot in the East.
Yep.
So this is what you're looking at. It's not the big man's time, Charlton. It's the little man's time when you're playing in an amended season.
Yeah. Now, it's all fair and level. I wish all the guys the best. When Donald Trump says that when black women, all life came from Africa, I know he doesn't read the Bible because he would have read Revelation chapter 1, verses 14 and 15, the book of Daniel chapter 10, verse 9 and 10 and 6, and also the book of Colossians. He would have seen that Christ was a black man, and he would have dropped that Bible. In fact, he would have burned that Bible when he called in the National Guard to rough up those white kids in Washington, D.C. So he hasn't read the Bible. Big C.
Well, Charlton, I think that's a world-renowned thing going to Donald Trump. Trump has not read the Bible, or he cannot quote one verse from the Bible, or even one of those books that you just named off.
Yeah.
He is not a person of empathy towards anybody in society.
Yeah.
He's a person towards empathy towards the dollar, just like he spewed out that, canceling college football would hurt his reelection possibilities in the South. So those conferences are holding on for Donald Trump to try to get him reelected back into the office, because once you cancel college football and then you cancel high school football, all those suburban moms are going to sit around and say, if you had got on top of this virus, we would be at games instead of stuck in the house.
Isn't that something? He also said that you're angry if you speak up to a white man. Isn't that crazy? Even for white women, that has to slap you in the face a little bit. You go to school to get an education. Your parents, for the most part, raised you to go out and do the best you can in life. You can be whatever you want to be. And a white man says, "Shut up! If you talk back to me, you're angry." I don't believe in that garbage, but I guess a lot of people do because they voted for it anyway. I just hope that the society is a little bit smarter now. So no matter what you do,
it wasn't about being angry, Charlton. It was about the people who have the same beliefs that he has. That's the thing you have to understand when you make those statements. The people who voted for Donald Trump have the same beliefs that he has. They're not angry. They just have the same beliefs. And you can't be mad at somebody for having the same beliefs as another person.
Yeah.
Just like you have your beliefs and your contingencies, the people who follow him have the same beliefs that he has. So when you say those things to undermine him, that's what inspires him. It's like you said, a racist said, he'll say, "Thank you for letting me know that I'm racist."
Yeah.
This is the same thing about the people who follow Donald Trump. They are just like him. They think like him. The words that you hear coming out of his mouth, the tweets that you see him putting across the screen, that's what they believe in. That's their Bible.
Yeah, well, it's all fair and love and war. People do what they want. I just hope that people register to vote. And when you vote for decency. And I know you have a clear choice. You can see it. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. And he would always tell Ali, "With all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble." Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, just like the late, great stork Ted Hendricks wore number 83, we got 83 days left until the next presidential election. Get up off your butt, make some action happen. I want to thank those frontline healthcare workers, the nurses, doctors, first responders, for this powerful and determination that you have in trying to keep America safe and healthy every day. Stay strong, stay safe.
Stay strong, stay safe, and congratulations, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. Bring decency back to this country. We need it so much. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports anywhere in the world. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast, and you'll post up somehow. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to deal with that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.